Thank you for being here at our Spring Member Workday. Feels funny saying spring in February, but I live in Colorado, and anything that's warmer is always welcome. How many of you are here for the very first ONF Member Workday? That is fantastic. Thank you for being here. I know some of you have traveled many, many miles to be with us, and we're so grateful for your presence. My name is Rick Bauer, and I serve as the Technical Program Manager. I'll be your host for this flight. Working with me is First Officer Retta Habib. Retta is actually the Technical Program Manager at ONF, and we're captained on today's flight by Cassandra Blair, all right, who's a very experienced pilot. So, but seriously, we do have a lot of fun here, so we hope that we can make technology a bit more enjoyable and certainly to make it a bit more humane. And so we hope that the meetings today, tomorrow, and Friday are really helpful for your company, for you professionally, and that you not only learn a lot from being here, but that you take those initial first steps, those courageous first steps to find a place where you or your company can plug in and find real value for your participation. We know all of you are extremely smart, intelligent, and charming people, and we look forward to ways that you've made and your company's made significant sacrifices to be a member of this organization. And what we don't want to see is a year from now sitting back and saying, you know, boy, we spent some money to be a member, but we never really got our value. And so it's our job today to identify and to describe the activities of the ONF. We're going to particularly talk about our open source initiatives, and so we've got a lot of new announcements. What's really ironic is the people who attend this meeting will know more about our open source software development programs than anyone out there. So you will be an expert, probably being interviewed by all kinds of people by the time we're done. I'm not going to read all of these points. We'll have this entire video presentation put up on our website for you or to share with your colleagues. So not to worry about that. But our role at ONF is to promote the commercial use and adaptation of SDN. So we drive SDN standards. We collaborate with other innovators, not only within ONF, but through our liaisons to outside organizations. Through our outward-facing programs in our marketing area, our SDN solution showcase demos, white papers, other publications, briefings, blogs, videos, etc., we communicate with a larger constituency of network operators, those who are adopting, using, and deploying SDN. And so gain an influence in a trusted space in the world of SDN. And we've worked very hard for 3 years to become a trusted source of accurate, bias-free information as we build this very important ecosystem. I'm going to talk a little bit about how ONF works. There are so many different groups that are meeting. What are these things called WGs, and are they like DGs, but not, why do they call them D and not W? And then there are projects, and then there's this board and this council, and I tell you what, it's if you've ever looked at the Boston subway map, it probably looks a little like this, or the New York LaGuardia Gate announcements. It probably looks a bit like this. But let me walk through this just so you get a sense of how the organization works. And if you have questions, you can raise your hand, or we'll certainly have time at the very end of our discussion for all the questions that you have. And you know, we want you to walk out of here with those questions asked. At the very top of the organization, we have a non-working pointer. All right. We have an ONF board. These are network operators, consumers of SDN, who are appointed to serve their term at the highest level, highest decision-making level for the organization. It's important to understand that they are network operators. They are manufacturers of equipment are constitutionally barred from serving at the board level. From the very beginning, ONF was created by operators, for operators, representing their interests. Not every standards development organization has that structure. In fact, many of them are grooved to support only the vendor's interests, and it's been our experience in other places. Both my boss, Dan Pitt, and I have had experience in other SDOs where 3 or 4 vendors will vote on a committee and have enough votes to keep things from open source software, or initiatives, or innovation, or competition from happening. And so, ironically, what's supposed to advance a technology ends up holding it back. And so, from the very beginning, ONF faced that situation and said, we're going to create a structure that allows the very best ideas to get through without concern about who wins and who loses financially. So underneath the board, the executive director, Dan Pitt, and his staff, myself, Cassandra, Retta, you probably met Beth most as you came in and registered today. One of our other team members is here from Japan, Daisuke Sasso. So make sure you meet Sasso-san, and he is the shogun of Japan. So anyway. Yes?
What is, in the beginning, what are the 4 operators to kick off ONF? Just on the slide.
Oh, the original members. I'll show you a slide on the website, but on the website under members, you'll see the founding members. So it's like British Telecom, Verizon, Facebook, Google, I'm trying to remember, Goldman Sachs, Yahoo,
NTT.
Yeah, NTT. That's all on our website, and Deutsche Telekom as well. I should have that memorized, but maybe we'll make a Broadway song. They're 8 now. Okay, maybe I'll make a Broadway song out of it so we can remember them. But good question. Good question. All right, and so working for the executive director is his staff. Because of the growth of our working groups last year, I think we had 13 or 14 different working groups, all of which were working independently. I don't know if you remember the Fred Brooks book called The Mythical Man Month, but he said, you know, it's kind of like you can't outsource being pregnant to 9 people each for a month. So ways that we learn to try to coordinate and we were spending so much time with groups that really could be grouped under a more sensible structure. And so we migrated into what we call areas. So you'll see the yellow boxes at the bottom of the diagram. An operator area, and that will work closest to our operators, will meet in a way that is more sensitive to their needs than the traditional SDO meeting for an hour every Tuesday from 3 to 4 in the afternoon for the rest of your life until your grandkids take over your job or something like that, sort of the SDO world. Operators don't work like that. They have a data center to build, and they have another ERP project to roll out, or they have this enterprise software to deploy, or those sorts of things. And so our goal with our new operator council area is to bring those operators in, listen to their needs, find out what they really want from the organization and from the world of SDN in general and specifically, and then execute to those marching orders. We have a services area composed of a number of working groups in SDN architecture, our information modeling, layer 4 through 7 services, northbound interfaces, which is a broader category with a lot of sub-projects in there, and then our security working group as well. So they're all grouped in what is a structure that makes sense. They communicate, they report to an area director. Each of these groups has a chair. Some of them have vice chairs, etc. Our biggest area is called specification. And as you would imagine, that's where our OpenFlow protocol continues to mature and develop. The Extensibility Working Group, led by Jean Thury of HP and Ben Pfaff from Nicira, are responsible for the collecting and integrating the features in the OpenFlow specification. So if your company is interested in a feature set or behaviors in OpenFlow and you want to help influence that, by all means, the specification group, they have 3 meetings this week, and so you're, as an ONF member, you're invited to take part. We have a new evolution of packet forwarding that's called Protocol Independent Forwarding, or PIF, and that group is just getting started. We had an introductory presentation about it last year, at the end of the year, and so that group has become a working group, and they're working on what will be a protocol-independent manner of packet forwarding, and they're just getting spun up with goals of creating some open source software as well. Forwarding abstractions, the group that's led by Kurt Beckman works on packet forwarding, how such things as table type patterns and other kinds of structure and schema that you can interpose on top of a forwarding plane to give it some structure. TTPs probably being the most well-recognized part of that. The Optical Transport Working Group is working particularly for optical extensions for OpenFlow. Those are being developed independent of the OpenFlow protocol. The needs of the optical carrier community are well represented there. So if your company is particularly concerned in that environment, they're building their own OpenFlow extensions that will not be a part of the overall specification, so they'll be able to be bundled and introduced very quickly. We're probably going to be doing the same for wireless mobility, Wi-Fi, those extensions being able to be introduced and not buried in the rest of the protocol, which a carrier operator may not really consume. So if you're interested in those areas, please check them out. I mentioned wireless and mobile. They're another working group working on SDN solutions in that particular space. Our testing and interop working group is concerned about how to validate the performance of the specification on a variety of equipment. Starting with switches, they're now moving into controller and switch controller performance benchmarking with a larger challenge of looking at interoperability. They are managing the OpenFlow conformance specification, which is just about ready to be formally released for version 1.3. They help manage and influence the conformance testing program for ONF. We have OF Config, or Config Management is the proper name, working group that works on OAM and management issues with respect to SDN. So specification is quite broad with a lot of things that really do affect each other. This is probably the most painful area of ONF last year, because you had all these groups that really weren't communicating as well as they could have been, but now are under the management of Yatish Kumar is the area director and doing a great job. Our last area is our market area, led by Mark Cohn of Sienna as the area director. These are all the outbound communications that go to the outside world about things that ONF does, and that's our proof of concept work, our publications, our workshops. We introduced the SDN Solution Showcase at the Layer 123 OpenFlow and SDN World Congress last October. And if your company is interested in those kinds of real world, real customer, real product demonstrations of SDN, we're running 2 of them at the ONS show in June, and also back to Dusseldorf and where I think the beer in Dusseldorf is much better than Santa Clara. That's all I can say. And right, all right. So anyway, we'll be going back there for the show this fall. Other groups that help guide the technical agenda of the organization are the Chipmaker Advisory Board, the research associates, folks who are professors, university researchers. They can apply to be members of ONF without charge. And so if your company has a particular relationship with the university, or you're helping to grow a programming plan at a local university, you have an outreach program like I know many of you companies do, and you want to bring on some of your best and brightest SDN researchers, by all means, let us know. You can send Cassandra an email or me an email. Inder Monga from the ESNet program is the RA, the research associate in charge of the program. They're planning to do some pretty exciting things this year, some papers that will be presented, some research that will have awards associated with it. They're going to be helping us with a couple of very important, significant projects that we're going to be announcing in the next few months. So the Research Associates Program, please let us know if you have those. They could come, they could participate in the meetings. They have the same IP obligations as you do as a member company, but it is a way of allowing folks who could not afford our membership fees, but who are absolutely vital in the development of SDN to be a part of things. They have a breakfast this week, and we probably have, 10 or 15 of them who are attending. We've got about 30 overall around the world, so there's plenty of room for that group to grow. We have two councils that help guide various activities in the organization. The Testing Leadership Council, composed of all the tests. We have 6 approved test labs around the world, and the companies that manage testing like Ixia and Spirent and Luxoft, companies who have testing software. They work together mainly with the development of our test specifications, performance benchmarking, and interoperability. The newest of our councils is the Software Leadership Council. They're helping guide our open source software efforts, and we'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. All right. The work of the organization. Yes, go right ahead.
Two dumb questions. One, how long do you think the ONF spec will take to achieve some base stability to the point that you can overtake the world? And second is, once you overtake...
That is our goal, global domination, yes.
Once the world is overtaken, where do you go from there? So
we're going to Saturn.
basically, the question is, right
Yeah.
now you're playing layer 1, 2, 3, as you said. But what happens once there's a stable spec?
All I can say is watch this space for about a month. You're going to hear an announcement very soon about ONF's role in looking further up the SDN ecosystem and creating vertical stacks. Not the only reference implementation, but reflecting the thought that, imagine if you had to buy an automobile, and I'm going to go here to the tire store, and then I'm going to go over here to the motor store because they have good motors over there. Now I have to get that motor to fit into this frame here, and the steering wheel store is over here. I got to download the steering wheel. I got to go buy the steering wheel. That's the world of SDN right now. And unfortunately, it resembles some of the early building of PCs where you had people in garages who were buying tubes and doing all this. I'm kind of dating myself. But that's really where we are. And no one does that. We go to an automobile store. I want this car. And I want it now. And here's my money. I'm downloading my money. Let me drive away on this car. Unfortunately, SDN is not that way. And I think that is probably the biggest hindrance to its broader use. So we're working, our board is meeting right now, evaluating some proposals to fix that. So you, again, like all the software things, you heard that here first. Yeah, I may get in trouble for talking any more than that. So, but obviously you've hit the nail on the head as far as the biggest issue that we have to solve. We'll continue to develop OpenFlow. We think that protocol-independent forwarding represents an evolution. It will never, replace or obviate the need for an open flow protocol, if for nothing else, to serve as a very good reference for other protocol forwarding schema. But many people confuse ONF with just open flow, and I think by this time next year, that problem, lack of understanding, because we'll be known for a lot more than that. So we're going into the northbound interface very aggressively. I think you'll see ONF serve not as a manufacturer of a lot of new products, but I think you'll see ONF be more of a systems integrator, taking, if it's ODL, if it's ONOS, if it's some particular use of Mininet or some sets of tools with OFConfig or other kinds of software, and building together a big tarball that you can download from our site and institute in your network. And so more of that to come. The way we approve specifications, and I won't spend too much time, because watching specifications get approved is a great solution for having problems sleeping at night. So if you have problems, just kind of watch this document review process. But our working groups will identify a project or particular specification that they want to develop. That gets vetted to make sure that they're doing work that is of value to the organization. Sometimes groups can kind of decide to do something, and after a year of work, everyone says, well, what problem did that solve? Is there any operator who's actually using SDN who really needs that problem? You solved a great problem that no one has. All right, so we want to make sure that we align work to needs and those sorts of things. They draft documents that go through various stages in development and socialization. As the document, particularly ones that are normative, that have specifications to them, like our open flow that has a lot of licensing requirements and IPR associated with it. Most of our documents, we have three different types. Technical specification, TS, that's like our open flow. Those have IPR and licensing and legal obligations associated with that and your membership. When those documents are approved by the board, all ONF members are able to use and license that information free and without charge. RAND, reasonable and non-discriminatory, and the Z is 0 for the charge. Some people say, well, we license it all reasonable and non-discriminatory, and that means you have to pay a fair price for it. Now, your fair price and my fair price may be different, and then it's no longer reasonable. I want to buy this I want to pay $10,000 for a brand new Chevy Colorado 2015 pickup, because I live in Colorado, and doggone it, I deserve that. And I want to pay $10,000 for that brand new car. The MSRP for the car is $36,000. See, I think that's unreasonable. And so automatically we have a fight there. So RAND 0 is the way we do our technical specs. So it takes that arguing and haggling about price out of the discussion. We have a final review stage. These get socialized around the organization through our technical council, and then they're voted by the board. They're approved to be spec, like our OpenFlow spec, and then they're published out to the entire world. So the board has to approve that and the release process. So this is the general process that goes as documents get approved. All right, let's talk briefly. Any questions on the spec development process? In many ways, it's like watching paint dry. It's not terribly exciting. I've been told that standards are like like glaciers. They are very slow to move, but they absolutely change the entire ground underneath them. And I think that's true with OpenFlow. It seems like its progress is not as fast as the world of software, where, my goodness, you go through 3 or 4 iOS updates a month, it seems. And every Tuesday, Windows is being upgraded. And what's happening with OpenFlow and what's happening with our specification. So it seems a little slow, but it absolutely changes the world underneath it. So questions on our spec development work? Yes?
What's the release for ONF
Well, that's a great question, and the difference is probably described in a couple of ways. IETF has a different intellectual property policy. IETF also relies on, if I make sure I understand their activities correctly, on individual voting in each of the working groups for a proposal to get out for final consideration. The ONF does not do any voting except at the board level. What it's trying to find is consensus among that particular working group. You may find that a particular project is needed by the organization or needed by for SDN development, and there may be one particular company that might be threatened by an open ecosystem that makes their proprietary solutions less valuable. So you'll have that one person in the back of the room saying, no, we should not do this. And everyone understands, well, that's their company's position. But that, in some groups, I'm not saying just IETF, but in some groups, they can work the politics so that a vote to approve will never get to the floor. ONF was consciously built on consensus, so folks work together. The working group leaders are charged with discovering what the consensus for the group is and then moving forward with it. And there's always room for minority viewpoints, but we're not going to... I've been in some standards development organizations where there were a lot of those kind of games played. I'm not saying IETF, but some other ones. So most of the differences between these SDOs and ONF have to do with licensing, with intellectual property, and increasingly with software. So look in, usually it's in the About section for IETF or for IEEE or for ONF. If you go into About, all the major documents that we have for our IPR policy and our licensing and all those things are all listed there. Your lawyers will be very interested in that part as well. So. Okay, but that's a very good question. Other questions? Here and then over. Okay.
My question, if I may, is on the previous slide. I couldn't quite distinguish the difference between council scope, and the mule's scope. And by mules, I mean the areas and the work. So, they all everything in yellow is report up to council.
Well, what they have is, that's a good question, and I was probably driving the slide too quickly. They have representation on the technical council. So it's not like they're reporting all their activities to someone who's approving them, but they all have a seat. The chairs of each of these areas and these groups all have a seat at the technical council. So it's a way to further coordinate the activities of the organization. So good question. I'm glad you gave me an opportunity to clarify that. Was that okay? Other questions? The lady and then the gentleman. Go ahead.
I have a question for this slide and previous slide. So assuming that we have some contribution that we like to make, and we are not sure exactly which area that would be more suitable, so do we actually approach the area director to kind of discuss on that, or actually we talk to the independent working group chair to kind of bring this up?
The answer is yes. Whatever you're more comfortable with, or you can talk to one of the ONF staff members and we can do some introductions for you. Retta works with the specification area and the services area, and I work with the operator area and the market area. And so if we've had companies say, look, I have an open source project, I really want the entire community to work on that, who do I go to? We'll put you in the meeting, sometimes at these kinds of events, face-to-face or breakfast, to make sure that you guys connect and can serve in the best place. So just see us. Our contact information is on this deck and also on the website. Anything we can do to connect you where your company can do good work, we'd like to do that. Okay, there was another question in the back.
My question is, I'm looking forward to, I have a question about the document type. In the open rules document, there's sometimes there are draft technical and design presentation in this case. My question is, how do you differentiate between the individual draft and the working group draft?
Okay. Yeah, and I didn't get through all the different document types too. There's technical specification, which has all the IPR associated with it. There's technical reference, things like TTPs and security and whatever, that references a published specification that has no IPR associated with that. We just publish that goes out on our website. The whole world can consume and use and without any problems at all. And then we have general documents that are general information that are basically white papers, marketing papers, those kinds of things that were always meant to go outside the organization. So the IPR is only associated with that first TS model. Each of those documents has a particular number to them just for tracking purposes and those kinds of things. So you may find if something says a draft technical document, it's in the process of being created, edited, refined in that working group. And then when it's finally ready, it will go to the area. First of all, if I've got something in optical transport, it will go to the area. The area working groups will look it over. We've got a security document, for example, in services right now. Very significant work that our security group's doing. It's now being socialized in the services area. They're right at the point now where it's going to go. In fact, at the technical council meeting this morning, I gave everyone the heads up that, hey, this security principles document is coming. Everyone gets a chance to look it over. Everyone gives feedback. It gets refined. And then it's published or it goes to the board for approval. So did that help clarify the process by which something that's a draft technical document can be around for a week or 3 weeks or a couple of months? Some of these take 2 or 3 quarters to build. So those things will circulate around as email attachments and things like that. Does that help?
One more. As you said, we do not vote on the document. So what's the process? Or how do you decide one document can go?
Well, that's another great question. How do we decide if a document's good enough to get out there? We try to get consensus on that. There was an earlier security document that was submitted, and the board, or the technical council, actually its predecessor, read the document and said, this is too general. This is just overall network security principles, kind of like lock the door, change your passwords. It was too general. It was not SDN specific. How do you avoid the problem of a rogue controller being introduced, sort of a controller in the middle hack? What are the standards and key management that you have to have in an SDN environment? The technical advice that security group got was, we need more specifics. And it was a good back and forth. Nobody felt like they were insulted or whatever, but they were told, we need more detail here. And so the group went back and worked on that, and that's now coming back to the technical council. So the security principles document that is about ready to be published reflects that guidance that they got from the senior leadership of the ONF, and it's a fantastic paper, and I think it's going to make a big difference. There's a lot of people saying, oh, SDN is the new security hack. It's like giving your credit card away or something like that, not realizing that good networking principles and good security principles combined with leveraging SDN allows your network actually to become more secure. But you have to be careful on some of the things that you need to do. So some of these documents go back and forth, but there's never a sense of which, like the TTP documents, when they first came out from the Forwarding Abstractions Working Group, we actually published that to the other working groups because that got approved. Somebody said, well, we need a few use cases in the appendix, and that was it. But it got green-lighted right off the bat. So it's always with the sense of what do operators need, how does this serve the best needs of an end user community, and most of our stuff makes it to the finish line. It's a good discipline and a good, we send stuff out to technical editors, ONF employees out of your membership dues, technical editors who will do illustrations and graphics and make sure stuff is as clear. What you see in some of these technical specifications is there are multiple authors, and so you want to make sure that the text reads clearly and English use and all these other sorts of things. We're working on simultaneous translation for our technical specifications into simplified Chinese so that it doesn't take a year or two to have this stuff translated. So some of our partners in China are working with us to get those translations from the very beginning. So good question. Sorry if I rambled a bit on that. Let me move quickly to, since I know our time is I know our time is valuable. Many of you who have already logged into ONF have seen this particular user interface. This is called Arrow. It's from a company called Associated Management Services, right? AMS. I knew that's what it stood for. They make the back-end software for our organization. And I'm going to ask Retta to come up right now and just talk a little bit about Arrow and some of the features that you have here. It won't be a live demo or anything like that. But if you have any difficulties navigating through Arrow, basically Arrow is a MySQL backend with an ASP front end. And so document numbering and these kinds of things are just ways of parking data into some kind of structure so that it can be retrieved. And when you click on meetings or lists, what you're really doing is performing a query on a particular information store or a particular table, and then it'll present that in a dynamic and more attractive way. So I'm going to ask Retta Habib to come up and describe this environment a bit more, and then we'll get into and also mention our website, opennetworking.org, and then we'll talk a little bit about software. Retta? Yeah, go ahead.
How often do you guys have these face-to-face meetings? And is the location usually in North America?
That's a great question. The ONF has two major face-to-face member work days in the Bay Area a year, in the spring and in the fall. We have two leadership face-to-face for our work group chairs and council leadership and whatnot in the off quarters, so winter and summertime. When we go to a regional geography like China or Japan or Europe, we will have meetings called meetups where all ONF members are welcome. We'll usually have summaries of the working group activities. We'll give a plenary of progress to date on various areas. Usually we'll bring some of the leaders from our working groups to those events. Dan primarily, but I also travel to these areas, meeting with our labs, briefing them on progress. We are looking at trying to address the fact that we have tremendous amount of participation in Asia Pacific as well as Europe, and our meetings can no longer be just friendly to those people who live in the Bay Area. So I know that we're starting to have some meetings that are late at night U.S. time, et cetera, or in the case of the SDN Solution Showcase, we actually had duplicate meetings that were more friendly to those geographies. But again, great question. You should work for 60 Minutes, man. No, they're really good questions, and they're helping us to draw out some really important things. If we know that there's some work by the L4 through 7 group that's led by one of the working group chairs. She's from Huawei. And she has pulled together a consortium of practitioners, and many of them are in China. And so they have a late night meeting, I think it's Monday evening, U.S. time, but it's the perfect time for their activities. The CAB, for example, a lot of Israeli developers, and so they've got another time that's best for them. So whatever is the best time, we have WebEx facilities and licenses that can allow those groups to meet at any time they need to. All right, so without further ado, Retta.
Okay. I know sometimes it gets overwhelming. There is a lot of information that you basically are hammered with, and you want to get your way through this. So there are two things that can help you. Okay, there is the external website. All the approved TR and TS are on that website. So go to that website and have a look at it. It has a description of the groups, what they do. It can get you started very, very fast. The second thing is Arrow, which is basically the internal working of ONF, and it has all the information that you need. So I'll walk for the icon, through the icons from the top. So my ONF is basically your welcome page, what has changed, the document that has changed. Groups is you click on that and then you get a list. You will find a drop down for all the groups. And when you click on that group, then basically you are going to get all the documents that have been produced by the group. It's going to be limited. It's going to be just show something like the last 20 documents, but you can scroll through that. And it's all, there is a lot of working documents that are draft basically in progress. And if you look at the draft, this is the final document of the final version of the document. If you read through it and you feel something is missing, contribute. Go and meet in that group and write what you think should be right and contribute that. This is what you need, okay? It's two-way, right? You can sit there negatively and watch what's happening, or you can contribute. I encourage you to contribute because you're going to learn more. And you're going to contribute, and you're going to say at the end of the day, at the last, when the specs is done, I contributed to that document, okay? List, the next, there is meetings, okay, so if there is a meeting you need to register to, for example, this one member work days, then you go there. List is a mailing list for all the groups. You can subscribe to all the groups. Okay, your company has paid the dues, you can subscribe to all of them. There are very few that are basically very limited, the board and things like that, just to keep it limited. But all the others are open for you. You can get all the emails that you want, okay? Keeping track of them is going to be hard, so you better think about which groups are of focus to your company and focus on those. So you can, first of all, you have an easier learning curve, and you'll be able to contribute. So think from your company and think from your interests as well. Okay? Calendar, if you click on calendar, then you're going to find all the meetings that are held at ONF that are sponsored. Okay? So you can go there and subscribe to the, not subscribe, I mean, look at the work group. This work group is meeting Mondays at 8 o'clock. 8 a.m. Notice this, all the days are Pacific time. So you need to convert them to whatever time frame you are in. And there is, you are linking to WebEx through, you are linking to voice through the WebEx. So that will work for you. Okay, documents, all the documents. There is a search facility in documents. You can do that. Polls, we are very rarely use that, but sometimes we use it in order to get some feeling of documents. Different projects that are going on, but the focus of that will be OpenSDN, and Rick is going to talk about that. If there are issues, and it's there, glossary is there, liaison. Someone mentioned IETF, ITUT, all of this. Then you're going to find the documents that are talked back and forth in the liaison. Monthly report is for reporting the status. Okay, so this is Arrow. This is your first stop, and it's going to get you there. Okay. Any question regarding that?
And then just go to the next slide, Retta. This is our outbound website. Thank you, Retta. If you have a question about Arrow, we have folks from AMS who are here. Debbie McGinnis is at the registration table. Her job is to help you navigate in that environment. So please take advantage of her being here. And I can't log in. All right, that's kind of an important problem. And if you have a problem, and I'm so embarrassed, I don't want to let people know I can't log in. Hey, listen, it stopped me a few times. So just jump in and get some help, and we'll go from there. So get to know. And the outbound website, opennetworking.org, you'll find that there. Okay, we have a presentation on GitHub in just a few minutes. I think it's going to be great, but I want to take just a few more minutes and go through our software development activities. So you're going to see some new important information. There are two different ways that specifications and standards are being made today. I don't have time to go through this, but one is called de jure specifications. That means legally approved, usually more deliberative. And then there's this thing called open source software where specifications are written in code. They change a whole lot more quickly. They're iterative. They probably have less of a shelf life as more and more people join a community and build. Both have value. And ONF is trying to encompass and become an organization that pays due respect to both the de facto specifications and the de jure specifications as well. So different IP licensing, things like RAND-Z and Apache 2.0 allow companies and organizations and individuals to do different kinds of things. So without further ado, we've created open source SDN. Let me be the first to allow you to get a brand new sticker to put on your laptop that says open source SDN. Come here, Cassandra. Cassandra is giving training classes after the class on how to actually put those on. I'm told our testing labs have determined that they work with both Mac and PC computers. So they will stick to either one. Just don't put it over a button or something like that. It will definitely have Linux support for them. So, but anyway, the open source SDN community is launching. Our website, etc., is going on. The open source SDN portal goes live next week. It's a reference portal. It's a community with middleware. The back end is our GitHub repository. Links to ONF-sponsored projects, but also links to other open source software initiatives like Open Daylight, like the ONOS project that Owen Lab is driving. We're not making a value judgment saying that it has to be approved by ONF. We think anything that has a permissive open source license, there should be a one-stop landing page for all that information. News, education, we'll have some education stuff soon, governance and more. This is the open source landing page. You see those coders, it's late, they look tired, they need coffee. That's what we're talking about. This is for coders, for people driving this. We have a 3-tier architecture. The outward-facing website to the left basically is this portal where we have news, information. It's a pointer to projects around the world. The open source, the middleware, the open source community site is really exciting. This is an open source groups.opensourcesdn.org. You can go there now and sign up. You can tell your friends to go. Well, they're not ONF members. Doesn't matter. This is free to anyone who wants to work in an open source community. This is different than the rules that bind ONF meetings. These are open source meetings, so it will take a little bit of getting used to. And then on the back is our development GitHub. All right. On the website that you'll see in a couple of days, we have governance and licensing, what your lawyers want to know, and what you secretly worry about. And so we have a process by which, if a company wants to contribute code, how we validate the provenance and contributors agreements, how we spin up projects. Our working groups are asking us to fund projects and those sorts of things, and so we do that as well. But want to encourage you to get involved in open source SDN. You can sign up on the community site. Consider joining or starting a project. We have our Spring Open project, our network driver. We have some other projects that are going to be announced pretty soon. There are great projects that your company can get engaged in with Open Daylight, with ONOS, and you can learn about them and link to them through this landing site. We want to, if you're interested here's my negative pitch. If you're interested in donating software, do not give us your junk. Do not clean out your closet with all your dirty shoes that no one wants to wear anymore and give it to us. We are not the goodwill recipient. On the other hand, maybe you finally realize that you've got some great software, but it's not your core. And I think a lot of companies are realizing that now. Where we're going to make money is innovating on the edges of that core. And so that's where we're going to put our efforts, or in servicing that software. And so we've already had several discussions with companies who are interested in donating not only their code, but their coders. And so we're looking not just for software, but for people. We don't want to build one rev of something and then not have the support to drive it further. So we'll sponsor a few of our own projects, but we're not just taking orders for the industry. We think that's a really bad thing to do. We don't want to compete with companies, but we also don't want to build something that customers don't really need. And so we're going to take a hard look, because your membership dollars only go so far, and we can't fund $10 million worth of software dev. So we're looking for projects that are open, that represent commitment on the part of multiple entities in the industry, and that are relevant. All right, so just keep that on. If you want to talk about that, see me this week. I'm managing the open source effort for ONF and what is going to be OSSDN, open source sdn.org. And so let's talk this week, and if you have a particular project, because your competitors already are talking. All right, as we close, this is your ONF. Join a mailing list, a working group, a committee, contribute your ideas. Speak for ONF. We have a speakers program. If you have an event that you go to and you want to talk about ONF, we'll get you slide decks, we'll get you diagrams, we'll get you logos, anything that you need to be effective. Save the date. September 8th through 10th will be our next event here in the Bay Area.
Marriott.
At the Marriott, okay? So those of you who get reward points at this hotel and don't get your Marriott points, you'll be able to get Marriott points at the next hotel. Here's our contacts and how to get in touch with us, just for more information. All right, we have 3 minutes for questions. You've been a great audience. Jay, tell them what they've won. No, what other questions can I answer, or can we answer as we wrap up this afternoon? Yes?
On the ARO, we just saw how to access the documents. So
Yeah.
there should be a process of uploading or sharing some documents.
Very much so. You can definitely do that. And I want to show you one thing that I think is absolutely important to learn with Arrow, and it will. This is worth the price of the whole meeting. This is worth your airfare. When you get to Arrow, you'll see this thing called Calendar.
We're not looking at it yet.
Oh, I'm not? Okay. Aha, I know. Hang on just a second. You know, when you run those, here we go. Sorry about that. Like all lunatics, it's really clear to me. Anyway, if you look on Calendar, this will save you. When is that meeting, and what are the WebEx coordinates? My life for the login number. When is that? I've got 800 calendar invites, and I can't find the meeting, and I'm presenting at the meeting, and it's 2 minutes from now. This is where Calendar is the greatest thing in the world. It's better than sliced bread. It's better than compound interest. It's better than warp speed and anti-gravity pods at the same time. All right, so all you have to do is click. I've got the extensibility meeting. Boom, there it is. I sound like I'm selling something on TV, but you can find all that information, because I know that saved me on numerous occasions. So just keep that in mind.
And
All
working
right.
information is on there too. So
Yeah.
it will be in September as already.
Yeah, all the meetings, all our other kinds of things, et cetera, are there. Okay? Other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for being here. We've just completed our time. We're going to start in just a few minutes with our tutorial on GitHub. And so thank you for being here. Let's take maybe a minute or two to stretch, and then we'll start GitHub in just a second. Thank you.